Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
What does a healthy, balanced lifestyle consist of? How should you eat? What exercise should you be doing? How many hours of sleep do we really need? Does too much water flush away all your vitamins? Should it be high carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb? The more research you do, the more confusing it gets, because there is so much information out there, and there are so many conflicting opinions. So how are we supposed to know? Stick around to explore the different approaches to health with us, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and let's try to figure out together what the heck being healthy really means. I am your host, Hazel Priscilla, and this is your weekly dose of Feed Me Honesty. Hello and welcome back to a new week. So what happened last week is Dr. Junaid and I couldn't stop talking and it had to turn into a two-part episode. So we are back to pick up where we left off last week. Dr. Junaid, welcome back in studio.
Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you.
I promise not to hog the mic this time. Okay. We'll get it done.
We'll see. I'm just going to jump straight into the questions before this turns into a 5-part episode.
Let's go. Let's do this.
So according to Healthline, a lot of researchers are finding evidence that psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, can be used for a variety of mental health conditions. A lot of studies were actually done on this topic in the 60s before it was banned in the 70s. Associate Professor of Psychiatry and Behavioral Studies Matthew Johnson tells about research done on quitting smoking where 80% of the people successfully stopped smoking 6 months down the road. A year after quitting, 67% of these people had still not smoked again, and 2.5 years later, 60% of these people were still smoke-free. Whereas the best medication known as Chantix, is that right? Do you know that medication? Chantix typically only has 30 to 40% success rate. So what is your opinion about the use of psilocybin for treating mental illness as an Eastern medicine practitioner?
Ooh, semi-controversial topic at the moment.
Are you allowed to talk about
by
it?
legalities and stuff like that, but a lot of research has been done in the 60s and the 70s, and it was implemented quite a bit. It all changed, I think, when LSD came out. So Nixon put a blanketed, a blanketed war on drugs, and the world followed suit. So everything kind of got banned, from cannabis to peyote to mushrooms to all of that. Research is now emerging, but it's still being done. I don't want to say illegally, because it's still a grey area. It's not illegal. It's kind of decriminalized.
Yeah, and especially in some parts of the world more than others.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure where.
I think if it was more available to study, there'd be a lot more research. But that being said, people are finding that they're not getting relief from their pharmaceutical crutches or aids, the antidepressants, the anti-anxiolytics, the sleeping tabs, all of those things. And a lot of them are turning towards plant medicine with great success.
And with less side effects. That's a big thing also.
So I have a lot of patients that have actually gone for a lot of the journeys and have done like a lot of this work, and there are no side effects. They actually come out better. Aside from mental health, their physical health changes as well. Very similar to like ayahuasca, for example. It's not just changing your mental disposition, it is changing your physical disposition as well. But the nice thing with psilocybin, aside from it being used to kind of treat disease, because of the nature of the plant, it actually increases what they call neuroplasticity. So you're getting more neural connections in the brain. Your brain is firing better, so you can make better, more informed
decisions. I've seen like
decisions.
visual representations of it on Netflix or something. I can't remember.
There's a really cool show on Netflix called Mind Explained. One of the topics, there's anxiety and depression, but one of the topics are psychedelics. And you'll see the great benefits thereof. It is not recreational. Let me just kind of say it like that. It's not. You're not going to take it and you're going to laugh and you're going to see all these pretty colors and everything. It is deep journey work.
Like dealing with your stuff, like we said earlier.
It is not pleasant. You will be crying. You'll be faced with your demons. You'll see situations where you thought someone else might have been, how someone else might have wronged you, but now you're seeing it from a different perspective where you might have actually wronged them, how you perceive the situation. And
that's
often,
where the new connections made. Hey?
Yes, and often a lot of times
think about it a different way because there's a new pathway.
Yes, so you're seeing things differently, and a lot of the time people that come back from their journey work, they end up apologizing to the people that they might have hurt, or they rekindle certain friendships, or it makes their marriage stronger, the relationship with the kids stronger, because they have a deeper and better understanding. A lot of the time people think someone else is wrong, you did this to me, you doing that to me, but it's not always the case. We all have our own struggles and battles, but everyone is trying to do the best. It's just my lens on that particular day saw what you did as, you hurt me, how could you do this to me?
And then you make up the rest of the story in your mind.
You fill in the blanks.
Something small happens and
and then you reaffirm that, and you reaffirm that, and eventually that changes your behavior, because now it's become a habit. Yes. This helps you sift through all of that BS. It is raw. You can kind of see, it's like it'll be like the equivalent of like 20 years of therapy in one kind of session.
Unsuccessful therapy, because if it was successful, you wouldn't have gone on for 20 years or had to go
there's that
to
also.
therapy for 20 years.
There's that also.
But this professor that I just mentioned, I think in that article, he also said that he even is scared of mushrooms being legalized, because he doesn't want people to do it necessarily on their own. If they've never had this experience and they're depressed or whatever, there are clinics that people should go to, and the dosages are controlled. They know how to deal with you when you react a certain way. Exactly. Whereas if you're a group of friends, everyone's taking it, everyone's going crazy, and that, I don't know.
No, that's exactly the thing. Like, it should be legalized, but there should be an element of control, so that there's, again, and I don't generally like this word, but standardization. So someone can be growing mushrooms in their own little room at home in a little box, right? And they're like, okay, cool, we're going to go journey with this and we're going to do this. And they might not have grown it properly. It might be a little bit more toxic than what it should be. And you're going to have a really bad time.
Or they might not expect, how they are going to feel, and then end up doing something silly or like injuring themselves. I don't know. But I think, you're not in the right mind.
Most of the time. So this is actually ironic, and this is how it's different to alcohol. So you don't actually lose your inhibition. You might see things a little bit weird or different. Okay, wait, let me explain it like this. So when you do the psilocybin or the ayahuasca or the journey work, right, your eyes are closed. You are maybe laying down, you're in your tent, wherever it is, depending on how it is that you're doing. Maybe you're in your bed, but your eyes are closed and the journey is happening.
It's an inward journey.
Yes. When you open your eyes, the journey kind of stops. There might be visual disturbances or slight hallucinations, but you're not hallucinating something that isn't there.
Yes.
You might see the wall as maybe it's moving a little bit or something like that. But if you need to kind of snap yourself out of it, like, I need to be okay, you actually can. You can walk, you can function, you can do what it is that you actually need.
But how about, let's say, driving? If you are, let's say, seeing double a little bit.
I wouldn't recommend.
So that's what
driving.
I'm saying. There should be ways of doing, because people are irresponsible. People drink a lot and drive. Why wouldn't they take mushrooms and drive if it were like legalized?
Well, that's why I say we're not doing it recreationally.
That's why I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, 100%, not recreation. You actually need someone to hold that space. If there's a few people that are doing it,
and someone who knows, what's happening, and not just someone who doesn't have any.
You need someone that is not going to freak out by some of the sounds people make, by the. Some people will be crying for hours, letting go of things that might have happened from their childhood that's happened 30, 40 years ago.
So would you say then the professional would calm them down, or would they just sit with them? How do you deal with someone who's crying for hours and hours? Do you just let them do that?
Yes, you let them do your thing.
To get rid of it,
you
get
kind
it out.
of. They know that you are there, right? So there are watchers generally when you do this. There are people that are overseeing this process, and you actually. A lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but you don't need a lot of people that are medically capable when they're looking after them. You need people that are
Someone you feel comfortable
emotionally
with.
Strong. Okay. Empathetic, so I can understand what is happening to you, but strong enough to allow that process to happen with you and not intervene.
Okay.
Like, that's actually the holding space part. Whether you need to cry, whether you need to scream, whether you need to do whatever it is that you need to do, it is okay. You are in a safe space. It is comfortable.
It's going to be over soon. It's not going to last forever.
Exactly. I was going to say the other side to that, though, is you don't necessarily need to do it as a journey work like that. There's also microdosing.
Microdosing, yes.
And microdosing is absolutely amazing. So microdosing, you're taking such a micro dose, a minute dose.
How much would you say is a microdose?
You are looking at something like the tip of a knife, like really little, like you can kind of just like
0.00 something.
Yeah,
grams.
like it is little. You're not going to buzz. There's no hallucinations. There's none of that. But you'll feel in your day to day, you are actually getting better. You are seeing colors slightly brighter. You are interacting slightly better. Things are going your way. You are at a much higher vibration.
Would you at that stage already notice your thought patterns changing?
100%.
Okay.
You'll actually notice how people interact differently with you. You'll kind of be like, yo, I'm having a good day. Like, someone might cut you off in traffic and you're like, you must have some kind of an emergency or something must be happening. On another day, you'll be like, I was waiting in this line for so long. What are you doing?
That is true.
Everything changes.
Okay, now moving on to the next question. People involved in psychedelic research hope for psilocybin to be a licensed medicine within 5 years. Putting aside your personal opinion about the medical use of psilocybin, what do you think the reality is going to be 5 years from now? Do you think it's going to be legal?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you
100%.
think so? Here in South Africa as well.
I think that big pharma and doctors and a lot of the medical fraternity will still try to control this, or they'll try and deny its benefits, but the people have spoken.
Yes.
Like, people are doing it regardless of whether it is done with a professional or not. And that's the dangerous part. People are seeking
it would be safer
help.
To legalize it than it is to not legalize it.
Exactly.
So,
there's that aspect as well.
And then a lot of people, a lot of the healthcare, like Western healthcare professionals would be without jobs maybe.
Profitability is a big issue as well. There is no medication in curing someone.
Yes.
Oh, there's no medication. There's no profit in curing someone.
I know what you mean.
There's profit in ongoing treatment. Like, hey, okay, so you're in your 20s, I had a patient, 16 years old, on antidepressants.
Yo.
And she's like...
And I'm pretty sure there's even younger than that.
But I mean,
it's shocking.
If you're not treating that, you're going to be on antidepressants for the next 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
You won't survive.
And
you're
very impressionable at that age. So the kind of stuff, the things that you...
Yeah. If I affirm to you, you are depressed, you have depression, you have anxiety, you're going to believe, oh my God, I have this. I have this disorder. This is who I am. This is part of my makeup. If you start to see that as part of you at the age of 16 already, like how much more, if I only started to think of myself that way at the age of 40, it's a shorter time than having it's like that's deeply laid foundation. And at the age of 40, you can still kind of rationalize this with yourself. Am I really okay? Why is this like this? Why is that? At 16, your parents are telling you that, your friends are telling you that, your teachers, your counselors, your everything. It must be so.
Yes,
and you grow up thinking that your whole life. There's no capacity to change in that time process because this is who I am. It's part of my makeup. I was born this way.
Yeah.
It's not. You've acquired that.
And when we talked about the eating disorders and stuff, I did an episode with a dietitian about weight loss without doing diets. And then I did some research, and I can't even remember the facts, but it was like in 2017 or something, the age where women start dieting, it used to be like 14 or 12. Now it's like 8 years old. You're 8 years old and you're on a diet to lose weight. Like that to me is so disturbing.
It is disturbing, but it is happening. Social media is everywhere. You look at your CDs that you're watching, you look at the magazines, you look at your Instagram, you look at your influencers, you look at all of these. Even with the advent of plus size models, right? Which is kind of cool for a lot of people. A lot of ladies are ostracizing those females, like, how can you be reading that and posting those pictures looking like that, and like you shouldn't be doing that. Why not? She's feeling comfortable. She's living her best life. She's confident. She's inspiring people around her to do the same thing. We have a weird idea of how we should look and be. It's like humans are dynamic. We are completely different. You are very different to what I am. We think differently, we process differently. So why would we want to try and conform and put ourselves in this little box where we can all be the same? Everyone ends up being miserable, but hey, we're all the same. Yeah. We're all the same level of miserable, which is like really, it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. So aside from quitting smoking, there's also been a lot of success with studies done regarding treating depression with psilocybin. The Guardian even goes as far as asking if magic mushrooms could be the answer to depression. According to the World Health Organization, more than 300 million people suffer from depression, and many of the most serious cases do not respond to antidepressants, like we said. So we obviously need a better solution if 300 million people suffer from depression and the antidepressants are not working.
Very plausible. So the UK is actually leading quite a bit of studies into psilocybin, but they're finding more so than just depression. The neuroplasticity component of mushrooms is what the game changer is all about, because it's not just treating your depression. It is looking at cognitive behavior, how fast you can think, your memory, your synapse. So people with Alzheimer's, people with dementia, people with Parkinson's,
I've heard about dementia
works
and
phenomenally
Alzheimer's.
well. Because you're increasing neural connections. Anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, which is a really hard disease to treat. They are finding that there are certain kinds of mushrooms, and this is where research and legalization and standardization kind of comes in. There are certain kinds of mushrooms that work really, really well for schizophrenia. So aside from just the mushrooms, you get truffles. Truffles also have a very similar component to psilocybin, slightly different chemical structure, but that works predominantly well for schizophrenia.
Because it's funny that you mentioned that. I remember reading, I don't have that information on me, but one of the professors or doctors said that there are only two types of things that they are a little scared of treating with mushrooms, and that is schizophrenia and I think bipolar, because there is always that you need to know what you're doing when you're treating that. So then in that case, do not take it at home, do not go to any place like in that, because it can also,
those are generally chemical imbalances, right? So you need someone to be there through that adjustment period while your brain is rewiring and kind of figuring out how to function and how to secrete its new chemical balance. So you'll also see, and this is the weird thing with pharmaceutics and Western medicine, most of the schizophrenia medication that you take has the side effect of causing hallucinations. Most of your antidepressants and anti-anxiolytics could cause psychosis, could cause hallucinations, could cause anxiety, could cause depression.
How did we get here even?
But it keeps you in that cycle. So you're taking an antidepressant with the side effect of causing depression. So you go to your doctor, I'm still depressed. Okay, take this one. Okay, increase your dose, keep doing it, keep carrying on. Most of the new generation antidepressants are actually just shutting off the feeling. So they're not happy, they're not sad, they're just not feeling. And it's kind of making them almost like machine-like. They can't connect with their partners, they can't connect with the kids. The EQ drops, the emotional quotient drops. So you can't see if you, a salesperson, for example, and you're trying to sell something to someone, you can see when they're interested, when they're not interested. You can't see any of that. You can't pick up on any of the social cues. And again, it causes more anxiety, more depression. People don't love me, people don't get me, it's not that. You just shut off.
So why do you think something like alcohol that doesn't have any benefit, other than making you maybe feel better or alive for 10 minutes, why is that legal, and something like this that can literally have such great benefits illegal?
Money.
Is it the money thing?
Money. Yeah. So mushroom psilocybin you can grow by yourself. You can get kits and you can grow. Marijuana you can grow by yourself. So this is why I said it's a grey area.
I know with the weed it's now, and maybe because that door was opened and that was kind of legalized, that's the perfect lead into legalizing mushrooms as well.
Definitely. So last year or the year before, you might have seen it on Carte Blanche.
The court case.
There was a court case that was happening.
Who's the lady again? Should we rather not? Well, everybody knows her name by now, but let's rather not.
Yeah, let's
rather not mention. But it was an old lady, which makes it. I think that adds to the story.
It was, and she was taken in, and the people that she had helped and treated actually stood up for her. They came forward. Some were lawyers, some were doctors, some were judges, some were prosecutors.
Yeah, people from all walks of life.
They came up and they started helping her with the case, and she's out now. Everything kind of got thrown out for the most part.
So what happened? Did they say?
So she's petitioning now to have it legalized.
Okay, but she's off the hook.
Yeah, no, she's off the hook. I think, and I speak under correction here when I say this, but I think the case is at the High Court at the moment.
Okay, so it's happening.
Yeah. So no, that's what I said. Within 5 years,
it's much closer than 5 years, maybe even.
Yeah, but we will look with 5 years.
But I just want to say, like with that lady, I read that she started to use it because her husband passed away and she literally couldn't, imagine going on. Am I right? So that's an article I read. I don't know how true it is.
I'm not entirely sure.
But she did it for a good reason, It was like she had something to deal with and she didn't know how to. She found something that worked for her and she wanted to help other people.
Most people that are in this line of work, they actually don't do it for commercial gain.
Yeah.
It is to help the greater masses.
Other than some of the medical, know.
I mean, I know a lot of people that do journey work, that run workshops and do these things where they're actually running at a loss.
Not making any money.
They're not making any money, but they're helping so many people.
No.
And for them, that's reward enough. They're making a difference in society. They're creating functional members of society. But just to go back to your question with the alcohol, alcohol is socially acceptable. It is something that people have been doing for years. You go to a dinner, you celebrating, it's your 21st, you turned 18, whatever.
Yeah.
Alcohol. You go to a club, alcohol. You go to a restaurant, alcohol. But if you look at the amount of trauma alcohol causes, so if you look at the amount of accidents, you look at the amount of physical abuse, verbal abuse, and interestingly enough, sexual trauma, right, generally starts at a much younger age, and it's almost always seen in the Western world where there's alcohol involved. You come back from church on Sunday, you have your Sunday lunch, you get a little bit tipsy, your niece walks in the room or whatever else, something happens.
So you're not acting true to your character, almost like you said with the mushrooms. You're not, you can still be yourself.
Yeah.
You might see something different, all that, but with the alcohol, you turn into a different person, I think, almost.
You lose all your inhibitions. You become a very different person. There's a very small percentage of people that they call happy drunks.
Yeah.
But for the most part...
But they're still going to have a hangover tomorrow, even if they're happy now.
You're going to have a detrimental effect, 100%. But for the most part, it is because it affects the liver so strongly. You are getting anger, irritability, depression, resentment. You know how many people are depressed after they drink, and not necessarily just on the hangover, for days afterwards? It is huge. Or like now, this time of year, I mean, there's a reason that October is mental health month.
Is this for real?
Yeah, you're leading into November, December, which is Christmas period, which is festive season.
Well, this is not going to be released in October, though. It's only going to be released next year. But just so you know, we are doing this while it's really relevant.
But it's still relevant because you're going deeper into the festive season, and this is where most people tend to commit suicide.
That's the funny thing, yeah. Like,
they feel lonely. They feel alone. You're seeing all the celebrations. You're seeing all the... You go into the shops, you see the decorations up, you see Father Christmas, you see all the sales.
Yeah.
One, they might not have money to be able to buy what it is that they want as gifts for the family and stuff. It creates anxiety, creates depression. Some people are alone. Some people have moved from a different city or something. Someone came down from Johannesburg, they're living here in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Christmas time, there's no family. They're working, they're doing the thing, and Cape Town, as friendly as it is a fairly cliquey place. If you haven't been born here, if you're not from here, it's really hard to fit in. Most people that move here from different cities make friends with other people from different cities.
That is true, yeah.
So it's
I think also it's a time to be joyful. So it's a time where you're it's like Valentine's Day. It's a time for love. So when you don't have love, it emphasizes that, where this is the same. If you don't feel joyful, if you don't feel happy, it emphasizes the fact that you don't feel happy.
Yes. So I guess for the listeners out there, you can kind of do your part a little bit. If you see someone, if you're in your workspace and someone is alone, whatever, invite them over for lunch or do something, send them a message, give them a call on the day. How are you? How's your day? Come spend your day with us. So just kind of try and include them, try and incorporate them. A lot of people initially will be like, no, it's fine, it's okay, because they're shy, whatever, but deep down inside they really like,
I really want to
come, just make me come. Yeah, you're like, you're like, and that makes a big difference.
It does. We had this orphan, a friend of ours arranged this. So we all moved to Cape Town. None of us had family members here. And then she arranged this orphan Christmas party. So we all brought one dish and she decorated the whole house. And that was one of the best Christmas memories of my life. I didn't spend it with any family members and I just brought one dish. It didn't cost me anything at all, almost,
awesome.
And that's something cool to do. Like if all of your friends also don't have their family close, or you guys get together and you make that like a family. You
Very
are the family.
Cool. That is awesome.
But I will have to stop us now because I think we can
we'll
go on forever,
and
we're literally at the end of the second episode already.
Oh wow, okay. I'm sorry.
It's not you.
It's
not you. It's me. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Junaid, you can do so by visiting either the website www.theacupunctureclinic.co.za or www.theacupuncturecenter.co.za. That will both lead you to the same website, or you can find him on Facebook or Instagram under the same handles. Dr. Ruud, thank you so much for coming in today. We love, and all our female listeners love having you on this show.
Absolute pleasure. I love being here. Thank you for having me.
If you didn't already know, you can now find Feed Me Honesty on Instagram. So please go give our page a follow and join in on the conversation. If you didn't already know, this Feed Me Honesty is a part of a podcast network that falls under Blended Podcasts. So be sure to go check out Blended Podcasts on the website and on Facebook and Instagram, and give our other shows a listen as well. Have a balanced week and remember to be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others too. Feed Me Honesty is a South African lifestyle podcast hosted by Hazel Priscilla and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.